Well, first, it's a thrill to finally be in Vancouver, to make this trip, to visit the Backun factory and its incredible staff. I was blown away by the facilities. I was blown away by the friendliness of everyone I met. It's truly a remarkable family. And I think in all of my interactions with Backun Musical Services to this point, it's just been completely validated by this trip, because I immediately felt like I was home with my own people who understand this profession and what we're trying to do with this new mouthpiece line, the Vocalise. I found the factory floor at Backun to be incredibly impressive. It's clearly a world-class operation. I found this to be overwhelming in many ways. I was quite speechless even after the factory tour itself at Backun. I found myself quite speechless. The consistency of the mouthpieces at Backun is unparalleled, and I found that once I was able to be on site and try the mouthpieces as they come off the line, I mean, it's riveting, because it's something we dream of when we're younger, to actually to be amongst all of the inventory itself, and as it's coming off the line, to see it in the process, see it being made. I was able to even test several demo models that had come off of the line in recent weeks, and I found them to be just incredible. And they were all so consistent that I found myself bewildered about which one I would even choose. And that is something that is incredibly special about the Backun company, that Backun is in the midst of making a product that we can rely upon to be incredibly consistent from mouthpiece to mouthpiece. Richard Hawkins is a genius to me, and he's been a dear friend and a role model for me for 30 years. I've known him since I was a teenager, and I've always known him to be an incredible artist. I mean, and an incredible thinker and a deeply passionate teacher. But I always found that I always needed something more out of my own stock mouthpieces with various brands. And he was the person I entrusted the most to do any kind of modifications or small refacings, just basically touching up natural defects on every mouthpiece I ever had. So we've had this relationship for 30 years where I've been going to him religiously to essentially improve the mouthpieces I was playing at the time. And every single time Richard would tweak a mouthpiece, he was able to bring something to the mouthpiece that I really felt was not part of its was not part of its design in some ways. I think as he was perfecting his own craft and taking everything he had learned from his mentors, he was essentially evolving mouthpieces right before our very eyes. All of the saxophone players, particularly in the Midwest, those who can reach him at Oberlin College in Ohio, where he teaches, all of us who could reach him, who were within driving distance, would be on his doorstep, every week if he let them. But I found that it was about time for us to look at all of that data mining that he's done his entire career with saxophone players, and all of the common complaints and all of the common desires that players were coming to him with, and the questions and the requests for certain augmentations to mouthpieces. It was time to put all of that into practice. And it was his idea to approach me about designing a mouthpiece for Backun. It shook up the industry when Richard was able to team up with Backun to create the Vocalise line for the clarinet. Certainly, I saw that as the end result, in some ways, of all of his life's work. Finally, the right team together to realize his vision for the clarinet line. So I think I was a bit envious that this was able to happen for him, and I thought it's time to really think about how I could impact the profession in the saxophone side. But Richard being able to speak with the Backun team about what's possible for the saxophone, and for Backun to have confidence and trust that the saxophone is an industry they're willing to go into, and for all of that to align, I was elated, and I finally felt like my voice could be heard with what I was looking for in a mouthpiece. I think it's quite an incredible accomplishment to be able to say that we designed an entire line of mouthpieces during a worldwide global pandemic. It's an achievement that I think will resonate for decades to come with this new Vocalise TM series. To virtually design a mouthpiece over Zoom meetings, to virtually design a mouthpiece over phone discussions is unprecedented. We've never been able to do something like that. We were able to build an entire series of prototypes that were essentially being designed without anyone in the room. And I found that to be scary. I found it to be really intimidating that we were going to be launching into something that we couldn't be together to do. But it turned out beyond my wildest dreams. And I think as the prototypes really came into focus, and each one was just superseding the previous, that's when my confidence and my excitement really took hold. And I think we developed something incredible. It was really important from the very beginning that the Vocalise series started with the alto saxophone. This is our bread and butter instrument. This is the instrument that majority of any beginners will start on. It's the primary teaching instrument. We really needed to knock it out of the park for the alto saxophone first. And then hopefully that would build or be the stepping stones or the building blocks of the market. And now the future is limitless, because we can move now with that model, with the template, and if you will, of the Vocalise series. We can now move into the soprano line and the tenor saxophone line and the baritone saxophone line, because the full family, the SATB, is quite common in the school band instrumentation. It's quite common as a major chamber music medium. And the potential to have someday a full SATB quartet of saxophones playing the Vocalise series, to me is incredible to think about, because there would be such a beautiful potential for blend with all four lines represented, for instance, in a chamber music medium. And I think this means the sky's the limit for the Vocalise series.